welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We provide fan-oriented and analytic discussions on a variety of animated shows, movies, anime, including Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, Ruby, and Rick and Morty. I'm Mel Moyer, and today I am joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hello.
And Britney Falcon.
Hi.
And today we are discussing Dragons Race to the Edge. Exciting stuff. Find more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. And we're just going to get right into it with a round the horn, as fun as those can be. So I'm going to start with Delaney. Tell me the good and the bad this season, just cursory topics before we get into the big stuff. And if you hear thunder in the background, it's mood music. So, Delaney,
yes.
You're up.
I was really excited for Race to the Edge, and I forced my family to get Netflix so I could watch it. And I started it, and I was like, okay, this is right. It definitely looks better than the other, two we've had. Yeah, it's pretty, and Astrid is actually a character, and Dagger was exciting. Dagger's great. A+ Dagger. Always love to see him. This season was just a little weird, and we'll get into it more, but I guess good. Heather, Dagger, Snotlout, shockingly enough, which I hate him, so that was a shock.
Nice.
And guess we'll...
We'll get into more of it. Britt, what do you got for me?
I didn't hate it. I'll start off with that. I might complain about it a lot, but I honestly did not hate it. It wasn't, terrible to watch, but I wouldn't say that I enjoyed it. I think it was just really campy, but it wasn't, fun campy. It was,
Yes.
not fun campy. Some of the humor was, in fact, funny. I did actually laugh at a couple of the jokes, so those were good. The animation looks really nice. It's not as good as the movie, but it looks really, really nice for an animated, TV show. It looks great. Pretty proud of that. Some of the characterization and some of the plot, I'm just, didn't really satisfy me.
Yeah, alright. So, let's start then with Dagger. Delaney, you like this plot, you said.
Yes.
Do you think it was effective in what it was trying to do?
Well, effective, I think, is... it's hard to talk about Dagger because in the scope of the season, because honestly, Dagger's, aside from Heather's, the only... I don't want to say the only good thing about the season, but it's kind of the saving grace of this season. The Dagger's really the only thing that kept me interested the entire season. Obviously, I watched it because I love How to Train Your Dragon. I'm gonna watch it. You could have Hiccup and Astrid, staring at a wall for an hour, and I'd watch it just because I love it. But Dagger was just, was really just the only interesting thing, and I kept waiting for episodes where they'd bring him back. But I wanted to get into this a little bit later, which my point with episode order. I think this season would have been more effective. The Dagger plot would have been more effective if the Heather episodes would have been the end of the season.
I was very surprised to find that Heather's episodes were not the end of the season also. So, I'm with you on that one.
That would have made so much more sense, and that would have made the season feel cohesive, which it sounds kind of silly. What's it matter if all of the events happen? Well, if we had the Monstrous Nightmare episode could have happened literally any other time. It didn't have there were no events in the episode that were, dependent upon anything else in the season, so that episode could have been literally anywhere else, and then we could have just had the two Heather episodes, and to me, this season would have been oh, this was a season, there was a plot. This is an arc, and this happened. That would have been great. So if that had happened, I would definitely say the plot would have been effective. But in this case, I'd give it a sideways thumb.
Yeah, no, it definitely started out very interesting and then kind of tapered off, especially after the two-parter with Heather. Britt, what were your thoughts on Dagger?
I just thought that he was kind of a one-trick pony as a villain. He didn't really have a whole lot of depth, or really, I did like to listen to him talk.
He was a little bit cartoony.
Yeah, he was very cartoony, which I know this is it's meant for children in a sense, but they're trying to age it up. I just wish that he had more dimension. I think that's the one thing I wish that they had done more with the characters in general. on the show is like sometimes they come off as very flat. Like he's entertaining, like his mannerisms and like the way he like moves his arms. I'm moving my arms at the computer screen, but you can't see me. But like that was entertaining, and just like the fact that he's kind of a loose cannon. So I kind of wish they had maybe done more with that. Like he's like the he's not an archetypal villain, but you know, he's the older brother.
He's a very like cartoony villain, I feel like, which is unfortunate. And this is something I wanted to get into later, but it kind of just showcases the problem with this. I think it was that it was TV stakes versus like how epic they make the movies, and it kind of sucks a little bit because they did go onto Netflix format, which gave them the freedom to essentially do whatever they want. They're no longer on I forget where they aired when they were
Cartoon Network.
They're no longer on Cartoon Network. They're no longer controlled by Cartoon Network or have that like breathing down their neck, however much they did have. But it was essentially just the same show over again, now on Netflix, without taking advantage of sort of this more freedom and the fact that clearly a wider in age audience is going to be accessing this. And I thought Dagger was like the perfect example of like these TV stakes and like not going as far as they could have.
Like he could be a really dark. I mean, for the TV show, like I say the TV. This is still the TV show, but in the earlier seasons, Dagger was kind of shocking in a lot of the things he would do. Like wow, this is like Dagger really has the potential to be a very, very like terrible villain, especially for this format and like How to Train Your Dragon. Like Dagger, he could be like just terrible, like awful, cruel. The things he could do.
Yeah, like he's a loose cannon. Like that's what I was hoping to see, and I didn't see.
And I think, I think the main problem with Dagger is that one, I mean, I was excited that like we got Dagger because I've always loved Dagger. He cracks me up. He's great, and his introduction this season was just like, oh, he's been in prison for 3 years. He busted out. Ha! Like what? Can we get a little bit of backstory?
He literally just beat them up. There was like no like intelligent and like long drawn out scheme. Like I would totally buy that he has some sort of Shawshank Redemption art like plan in place and like does
in
some
the fan
crazy.
fiction. He definitely does.
Yes.
I mean, he should I feel like he's intelligent. Like they could have made like him a smart villain. Like that's the thing about Hiccup. Like he's like they're like foils of each other. You know, like they're both very intelligent, very inventory.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they could have taken that to like a dark place and made him intelligent and made Hiccup like the counterintelligence, and they're having like a battle of wits.
Which is specifically important because they continued sort of Dagger's whole use of calling Hiccup brother and that sort of thing, and kind of like the crazy like evil twin dichotomy those two have going on with each other, but they didn't. They set it up kind of. I don't even think they knew they were setting it up. They set it up kind of, and then just let it flounder a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, Dagger didn't get nearly as much screen time as I would have liked. No. Like, Dagger is in, like, maybe he's in a fraction of the episodes. Like, maybe a fourth of the episodes. And I think, and I was trying to say this a minute ago, which is they relied too much on Dagger's characterization from the previous two seasons. Mm-hmm. We've seen these characters and we know them, but they've also aged up 3 years. Like, that's... And also, I think Astra and Hiccup say this several times, that we're growing up. And especially that's a big thing with the Heather arc. I say arc. But, like, with the Heather episodes, that that they're growing up, but we don't, like...
They don't
it's
grow
been
up
3
at all.
years. Yeah, exactly. And there's no change in characterization, except with Snotlout, which, again, like, what?
I love Snotlout so much. I love that he's short and he's, like, a little burly, like, angry teddy bear.
So, yeah. So then going into...
But he has no depth to him, so at the same time.
Yeah, so going into the characterization, one person I think we were all kind of happy to see gain some depth was Astrid.
Yes, she's much better.
Especially after the second movie. Where she
was kind of sidelined. I mean, which was
that was
one of my main criticisms. It wasn't even just her. It was all the bird kids. Like they all kind of got sidelined for Hiccup's plot. And part of what made the first film so great was this ensemble dynamic between all of them. But specifically, Astrid kind of got she gets shafted in this movie, shafted a little bit in the TV series, and definitely shafted by the fans.
Yes.
So I was very happy to see her have some real growth and importance in the series.
Yes, that made me
definitely.
very happy. I just feel like they do lose some of the group dynamic in the show just because they're all so, like, flat characters, but they like, especially like the twins, they have no like emotional growth, or they don't do anything. They're literally just jokes. They're just kind of gag humor. That's their purpose. But I feel like you could do like a lot with them. Like, they're dedicating themselves to Loki. Like, Loki's a pretty, like, that was a thing that people did. They would like dedicate themselves to a single like god of Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you could have them struggle with like the fact that they're just kind of be like something. Like, how are they going to grow up? How are they going to fit in the society that they live in? Or like grow up and like just being jokes, having consequences, but like there's really no consequences to a lot of people's actions.
No, and I think that was one of the big pitfalls here, is that you've got interesting plots like that, like them dedicating themselves to Loki, which sounds so interesting when we heard it the first time, and stuff like that, and stuff like Dagger, but no sort of like follow through. It was like, here's this interesting
they literally
plot.
just like pranksters. They don't do anything. Like, I read like the description, like, oh, that'll be interesting. I'd read like all sorts of things happening that just like, Astrid's gonna join the Burke Guard. They're all growing apart. Let's look at those relationships. Instead, they all band back together and go look for dragons. But the only reason they're looking
and
for
they build
dragons,
a clubhouse.
And they build a clubhouse.
They
spent so much time building the clubhouse. I'm so stupid. That was my least favorite episode. Is when they all argued over the island and looked for an island, and were like, "This won't work. This won't work." Like, it was very pointless, and I thought, this is a waste of screen time. You could do something else. They spent a lot of episodes just like looking for dragons for really no other purpose than to look for dragons. Like, the plot just had no forward momentum.
And this brings me to the next point. Then it was like, does this even work? I mean, instead of doing what I had hoped they would have done, was to go beyond the second movie and look towards the future and like the interesting things there with Hiccup becoming the chief and all that other stuff. Instead, they're just bridging the gaps, but it's like a retrospective. Like, the thing with all them growing apart had no emotional bearing on me, because I knew by the time of the second movie, like, they'd be fine, they'd be back together. That's
where it's like hatred. It's like, what's the point of this?
Yeah, it's like, we know the end game, so why are we seeing we got like, enough of an exposition in the movie to know how Hiccup got it about, hunting down these dragons, finding new lands, and that sort of thing. We didn't need a whole, I believe it was 26 episodes, of more exposition on something that we essentially already knew.
Yeah, like, it was very self-explanatory. Like, even children could figure it out. Okay, there's dragons now, there's more. They explore. Like, that's very, cause and effect. It's very obvious. Mm-hmm. They could have looked to the future. They could have dealt with, like, just the effects of growing up. Like, I still think that would be interesting to children. Like, when I was a child, that interested me. I loved complex plots. I rejected watching movies and TV shows that I was regularly subjected to because there was no plot. Like, children know that there was plot in television shows. Thinking that they don't is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it's just an insult to their intelligence of children, which I don't like. Children are very smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, I want to talk real quick specifically about Heather in the Heather episode. Because it was really cool seeing Heather back again. She was kind of a controversial character the first time we saw her. But I think she's actually, like, weirdly a fan favorite.
Yes.
Even though she only shows up, like, once a season and then, like, vanishes to go be, like, brooding and mysterious. But what I liked about her, first of all, again, it's echoing what Delaney said, like, why was the two-parter not the last episode, since it was only 2 more episodes to the finale? Like, I don't understand that logic. But
like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, no, that made no sense to me, especially since the stakes were highest in those 2 episodes, considering what followed them.
Yeah.
That being said, all that stuff being said, one thing I really liked is that Astrid and Heather, like, got to bond.
Yes.
Which was really nice, because one of my major criticisms of the Heather episodes in previous times we've been around her is this sort of just automatic, like, competition between Heather and Astrid over Hiccup, essentially. I mean, it's other things too, but it's a ship war between the 2 of them.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah, and it's like, you don't need to have women automatically competing with each other.
I was so worried that they were going to do that, and they didn't. It was great.
Yeah, which is another thing I like to say about, like, Astrid's character growth and even Heather's character growth is yay. I mean, we're at a point where we can stop doing that. I mean, it's not to say that competitions and sort of antagonistic dynamics between women isn't something that you see and isn't something that you want to see. Like, it can be done very well. This was not one of those cases. And it does suck because Astrid was such a huge, awesome, like, character in the movies. Like, she kicked butt. And then she got with Hiccup, and suddenly a bunch of her plot lines in the first season in the first and second season were about her relationship with Hiccup and jealousy and that sort of thing.
And, like, trying to do cute, like, date things.
Yeah. And it's like, she's awesome. Like, let's not not that I don't love me some Hickster, don't get me wrong. Like, that was when I first saw this movie, that was, like, my thing. Like, I was all over that. I mean, the other thing, too... Oh, did you want to say something, Britt?
Okay, you can have, like, cute date episodes. That's perfectly fine. It might even be good, but, like, don't... I think it would be good. I'd watch the hell out of this episode. But don't take away the fact that she's a warrior. Like, don't take away that side of her. That's very, important to her character. Like, her entire, like, movie one arc was her developing the skills and wanting to be the best. And, like, the moment that really sold her for me in the movie was when she said, your parents' war is about to become ours. Whose side are you on? Like, she takes herself and what she does extremely seriously, and she doesn't carry that weight of emotional, just, like, that weight of seriousness in the show at all.
Yeah.
Like, none of the characters do. Like, they just don't.
And what's interesting is, like, her relationship with Hiccup and the way that developed. Like, it was very begrudging.
Well, she was gonna be a shield maiden.
She was, and all of this was very begrudging for her. Like, she was not happy to find out she had feelings for Hiccup, I don't feel like.
No.
She kind of fought it, and it was interesting, and even their dynamic is interesting, where she punches him and then she kisses him. Like, I think that was a very interesting dynamic that got completely thrown aside. Like, the second they got together, it was all lovey-dovey stuff. Which, don't get me wrong, I love me some fluff, but I love me some in-character fluff.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, they could have fluffy moments, but you gotta get there, and they didn't get there.
Though, I will say, it's interesting that, I mean, it's been a while now since I've watched, but the first two seasons, it was kind of like Hiccup and Astrid are a thing, right? Kind of, almost. I'm really confused. And then now they're like, we're just friends. So it's like, I want to know what happened in those 3 years. Like, I don't understand why we pick these weird moments.
That was one thing that confused me. Even when, like, the first sort of sequel bit came out, the Christmas short movie.
Yeah.
Gift of the Night Fury. Where, like, they're together, but they're not together, and she kisses him, but they're not together, and then in the first couple seasons of the show, like, they're, like planning these little dates, but they're like, no, we're just friends, like, and it's like, what's going on there? Like,
what are you doing? Like, that moment in Gift of the Night Fury where they make out was, like, really sweet. And she's, like, emotional and, like, supportive, and, like, she still, like, has a depth of character, and it was so cute.
Yeah, no, and, I mean, do you guys think better or worse this season with the Hickstrid?
Better?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, better simply because Astrid is more herself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she's more herself.
And, like, they kind of argue, and it's great. Like, the banter between Hiccup and Astrid this season is, like, top-notch. Yeah. In comparison to the other seasons. Like, whatever it is... Oh, when the twins are, like, leaders of the island, they're just sassing at each other the entire time, like, oh, you have to clean the stables. Like, yeah, it's just go with it, Hiccup. Like, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And I think that's something interesting about their sort of dynamic, too, is that it's very much sort of like a power dynamic. Like, it's Astrid seeing Hiccup both as a threat and as, like, a romantic interest, and sort of like, well, how do you make those two ends meet? And her way of doing it is really funny to watch.
Yes.
But we haven't been able to watch it the past few seasons because, again, I think it goes down to TV stakes where it's like they're thinking, okay, we're marketing at little boys. Little boys don't want to see romance. That's like the tried and true idea that these people have when they make animation geared towards, like, 12-year-old boys. Which is not, like, come on. Like, and it's that kind of mentality.
That's such a narrow margin. Like, how do you know that, like, you have...
No, well, this is the issue I took with, I forget who wrote it, The Maze Runner. he had a similar thing where he said, "Oh, I'm so proud of the fact that there's no romance in this and that there's no place for it in this story." And the fact of the matter is, like, I think romance is crucial to a lot of different stories. It's not that you should, like, be stopping in the middle of a nuclear bomb falling on you to, like, make out, but I think romance for Astrid's character in the first movie very much helped grow her character and define her character in a way that surprised even her. And I think when you do it that way, it's very interesting and very crucial to the story. Here, they made it, they like backtracked on it. Like, they completely, like, took what happened in the first movie and they were like, all right, well, let's, like, relegate it back to, like, teen crush mode. And then keep it there for years.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, this isn't slow burn.
They
like,
never talk
they're
about
on
it.
an iceberg.
Yeah. There's
They aren't in the iceberg. They are the iceberg.
They are the iceberg.
Like, God.
Yeah, no, so I was not a huge fan, and I'm still not a
Why
huge
does it
fan
have
of the way
to
they do that.
It's also just really confusing. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, because there's no definitive given time for, like, when they actually, like, get together versus are playing that weird, like, game of, we're not together, but our friends like to make fun of us, so it's just, I don't...
Like, it's just gags.
And you don't even need to, like, if their fear is that, okay, like, you establish them as a couple, and then you have to have all these, like, fluffy scenes, like, you don't need that. Like, the thing about Hiccup and Astrid that works so well is that they're partners. Like, they're partners in what they do in dragon racing and finding dragons and, like, doing stuff around the tribe. It's like, they're mostly business most of the time, even, like, in the third movie where they're clearly an established relationship. They're mostly business most of the time. And it's great. And there's little touches here and there, like kisses on the cheek and that sort of thing. And it works really well. Why we can't do it in the TV show is still beyond me.
And, like, they were dynamic, really. Granted, I do like it in this season that their dynamic is, like, focusing more on them, like, you know, the best friend aspect. Mm-hmm. Like, Hiccup always turns to Astrid, and Astrid always turns to Hiccup. And, I mean, obviously, it's because, like, they're perfect for each other. All, you know, OTP, shit pictured forever. But, like, boy, I don't know. Like, I don't know why they, like, because that they're best friends. That's how that works. I don't know why it's so hard to do, like, you just add a little bit of romance to it. It's not, like...
Yeah.
They just have to be like, we're dating, and then it's just business as usual. Like, I don't understand.
They don't have to be, like, making hard eyes at each other all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think that's why a lot of people sort of, like, the rule in, TV show writing is that you don't have the couple get together until, like, the last episode because it breaks the tension, and then you've got to do all sorts of, like, fluffy crap. And it's like, that's not the case. Like, you can easily... Yeah, so you break the tension, you rebuild it back up, break the tension. Like, it's an interestingly gradual process that you don't have to, like, the idea that you have to constantly be having your characters make hard eyes at each other is nonsense.
Like, we don't have to have 3 minutes of cuddling. Like, it's fine. Like, we can just...
Yeah. So, worked on it a little bit, still not exactly where I want it to be.
Yeah.
But we'll let that be. This started with a conversation about Heather, though. I have to say, Heather is, like, one of the most interesting characters on this show.
Definitely.
She's very mysterious, very... I hate using the word anti-hero because it gets thrown around so much, and people have, like, lost the meaning of what an anti-hero is. But I'd say she is one. She's very much the opposite of Astrid, which is
she's
great.
She's kind of like Astrid and Hiccup, kind of like mixed together.
Yes, that is their she's
their child from the future.
She is their child. That's what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I'm glad to see her back once again, just kind of popping in to say hi and then peacing.
She's just leaving.
Which is kind of, on the one hand, I'm like, I want to see more Heather. On the other hand, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool that's like her thing, you know, like
that's like her charm.
Yeah,
like,
she's off doing. She's like, she's got stuff to do.
She's busy.
She's busy, man.
She doesn't have time for their dumb clubhouse.
Yeah, no, I really like Heather. I would have liked to see more of her. At the same time, she did exactly what she always does.
And I'm glad that Snotlout and Fish Legs, like the whole romance thing with Heather lasted like 2 minutes, and then Astrid and Astrid and Heather ran away, and were like, let's go throw axes at things.
Yeah, they were like, no thank you. Yeah, no, I liked Heather. I liked seeing her back. It was pretty grand.
Her dragon is sick.
Yeah, well, I didn't... Okay, so I'm going to do this at the end, because I actually don't think I put it in. Keep that thought in mind. We will come back to that. All right. So
that dragon is sick.
Yeah, just the dragon thing. Just keep it in your head.
Okay.
All right. So one thing we want to talk about in here, and this could get dicey, is the role of the fandom in all of this. Because now, I am someone who occasionally I will like get involved in a fandom on Tumblr. Most of the time, like I'm a lurker. Like I just watch what everyone does and stay away from it because fandom dynamics kind of scare me a little bit.
They're terrifying. This
particular fandom, huge on Tumblr, huge internet following. Pushed a lot because when the second movie came out, it didn't do, I think, as grand at the box office as people thought it might with all the hype. Kind of got, rowdy on Tumblr about that.
Ooh, yes.
Does the fandom, you think, give a little too much praise to even the movies and the TV show, and all of this stuff?
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Especially,
yeah.
like, I'm not, like... Go ahead, sorry.
I think, like, in their eyes, like, there can be no wrong. Some of them. Like, they stare at it blindly with, like... they have, like, blinders on, some of them, and they're just, like, they don't see some of the shows, and especially the movies, like, flaws, and to talk about the flaws is to, like, act like it's the worst thing ever, and you just hated it, and everything's awful, but, like, no, like, I generally enjoyed both of the movies. I own both of them, I watch them all the time, because I have no life, but, like... They're not perfect. Even the first one, with all its like beauty and amazingness, is not perfect. But you can point that out and like put it in perspective to like other kinds of media. So
yeah, the fandom is also most guilty, I think, of being mean to Astrid.
Yes,
they're so mean to Astrid. I don't understand. She's perfect.
It's like she's like the Asami of like the core.
She is.
I don't understand.
She's a precious cinnamon roll. She needs protected at all costs.
I think the main problem with the fandom, which I don't know.
I would like to point out that the fandom was not always this way
is that
either.
Is the what?
Well, the problem is when the fandom gets bigger. That's the problem that happens.
Well, that's a flaw
back in the day, the fandom
of fandoms everywhere. As you get too big, and suddenly it's a nightmare.
Because back in the day, after the first movie aired, I was like huge into the fandom because I was like obsessed with Hiccup and Astrid, and like our fan fiction was top notch, and we were just all fabulous, and it was all smiles.
Well, what happened was also like. Well, what happened was DreamWorks is not doing like the best, and that's what happened around How to Train Your Dragon 2, and laying off workers and all that stuff. And then the How to Train Your Dragon fandom decided they were going to be advocates for DreamWorks.
Yeah, they were going to single-handedly save DreamWorks
and turned it against Frozen, which I don't understand why that was a thing.
Which this is my other thing too, and this is just a general fandom criticism. Why are there like competing? Like what is that? Like I understand, like I guess on Twitter when you've got these stands of like Rihanna like going at like other artists. Like I don't condone it. I think it's stupid, but I can see why they're like, oh, Nicki Minaj is better than blah blah blah. Why do you feel the need to make two movies, anything that have nothing to do with each other, like compete like that? And that was it. I think it was just everyone was like attack Frozen. They were like,
yes,
that was like that was a free for all. But yeah, no, they were like on it. Like this particular fandom like wanted.
They did it with
Disney
a bunch of
out.
other
They
things
wanted
too.
Frozen out. They wanted essentially anything that was successful. This is going to be a very controversial podcast. They wanted anything that was successful that wasn't DreamWorks like out of the picture.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
and it became, for a while, I remember, because I jumped into the fray for a bit, trying to be like, please calm down for 2 minutes, I can't handle this.
I've made that mistake before, I'm not.
Yes.
I don't.
Because I used to be very more involved in the How to Train Your Dragon fandom. Like, I was on all of these, there's this one Tumblr user who'd, like, send me asks, and I would, like, or, like, fan mail, and you'd, like, answer these questions or whatever, and then there'd be this giant post about, like, what everyone thinks about Stoic this week. I don't know, it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
But that you...
Yes.
But then it was literally DreamWorks versus Disney, and that was, like, the end. That's where it began going downhill very rapidly.
Yeah, which, like, it's dangerous to point this stuff out, but at the same time, I think someone needs to point it out. That doesn't sound like someone just shouting, like making a Tumblr meta post, shouting into the ether for people to stop. Like, fandoms are a tricky thing, thanks to Tumblr, where essentially anyone can have a voice, and sort of yell at each other about different things. But I think it's important for people, and I don't care how old you are, whether you're like 14 or like 20 years old, in this fandom, like, it's important to realize, like, this is a TV show. This is a movie. Like, it may be something that's very important to you, but is it worth doing that? Like, I don't, like, I just found it very, very sort of, like, trolly, almost, the fact that people felt that they had so much power sitting behind computer screens. And
it was very weird. It was very weird. Like, there was a lot of, just, like, they were so angry, and they just self-important would be my verb.
Which, don't get me wrong, like, this isn't like, let's put on the How to Train Your Dragon fandom. This is all fandoms.
This
is
just a fandom-wide problem.
Korra,
like,
Avatar, Doctor Who, Supernatural, like, you name it, like, any single fandom on Tumblr. Now Carmilla, now that it's big.
Yes.
Steven Universe is getting there. Like,
Bigger.
Teen Wolf is terrible.
Like, all of this is, like, fandoms just need to calm down.
And that's my show.
Yep.
Like, this isn't, chill, it's Tumblr, it's not, this isn't, like, the great debate for world hunger, or...
This isn't like fandoms like the Hunger Games. Like, this doesn't have to be a thing. Like, we don't have to do it this way.
I blame Lady Gaga for this, because she named her fans, and then everyone started naming their fans, and now it's like an army of people. Like, everyone has a name. It's like, I don't know, what do the How to Train Your Dragon fandom call themselves?
Do we have a name? I didn't know we did.
Now my theory's being disproven. But it'd be like,
But I mean, like, there's Cream Puffs.
Yeah, like, versus...
I don't like the Avatar one. I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, no, the Avatar one is not great.
No,
we'll go with the Korra one. The unofficial Korra one, the crew, or Korra Nation, versus,
the Whovians.
Like... The Whovians versus, like, the... I don't even know what the Supernatural... But okay, this is derailing, because I can't name any fandoms, but they have names.
And Mel's right.
They definitely have names, and that, like, creates this identity, sort of, I feel like, of a group unit or an army that feels the need to, like, oh, it's the little monsters versus the Katy Cats, like, time to throw down, and it's like, oh god, like, this isn't capture the flag.
This isn't capture the flag.
So,
fandom is not a contest.
Yeah.
How's that?
Take away anything from this. Fandom is not a contest, and
you can't lose. You can't win either, just so you know.
Also, another note, kind of going back to, like, originally what we were talking about, how the fandom, like, you know, kind of not just blows things out of proportion, but, like, oh my god, the show is so great. Like, you can, like, not like something about a fandom and still be, like, #1 fan. It's okay. Yeah. Like, you can, like, the show. To be honest, the TV show is not the best thing.
No, it's not. I think in the realm of animated TV shows, it's actually on the lesser scale of things I've seen. Like, it's not very good at all, in my opinion.
Like, there are good episodes, but overall, it's pretty bleh.
Yeah.
Especially the previous 2 seasons were just, I watched it and there were funny moments. Actually, to be honest, the previous 2 seasons kept my interest a tad more than this one.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, it's because this one we knew the end game. The last 2, we didn't really know the end game. We were like, oh, what are we working towards? Movie came out, we're still working towards the movie for some reason. But taking off that then, what are your predictions for the next 2 seasons? Because there's 2 more confirmed seasons. Do we think they're going to try and bridge more gaps, or do we think they're going to go past the second movie, bridging the gap between the second and third?
Will the third movie come out during these shows?
I do not know, because I don't think...
Because doesn't the third movie come out in, like, 2018? I know they kept pushing it back.
They did keep pushing it back, and I'm not sure why. I don't know I don't think there's anything confirmed right now for the air dates for the next 2 seasons. Because I think there's... I could be very wrong.
I have a question, though. I know they went to Netflix for this show, but did they start and finish animating it before, or they start animating it with the knowledge that they were going to put this on Netflix? This was not going to be on Cartoon Network when they started. Do we know that? Do we know, like, production dates or anything?
Someone might know. People probably do know. I do not.
I was under the impression... No, I don't have
because,
any, like,
that probably, like, changes my...
Yeah. No, that might change the way we want to look at this.
I mean, I was under the impression...
Yeah, because if they had already, like, animated the whole thing, like, the next 2 seasons could be vastly different they could decide to go in a different direction. Like, that's, like, I thought when I watched this was like, oh, this was meant to be on Cartoon Network, and now they just put it on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my initial, when I wanted to watch it when I heard it was on Netflix, I was like, okay, it'll be different, like, this has hope.
It looks like they were developing the series before, they knew for sure, before it was announced at least that it was going to Netflix. They might have already known.
I didn't think that.
No, but the name of, or no, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think, like, I was always under the impression that there were just going to be two, like, I don't know how soon they decided this, but I think that this show was made and, like, they with the full intention of it being on Netflix for this season. I don't think there was any overlap. Granted, I mean, we don't know.
Here, I'm going to look up production.
That was the impression I was under,
especially
the way they kept
what I'm seeing
talking about
is
it.
That they, okay, so I retract what I said. It looks like they knew they were going to Netflix.
Yeah, like they were like,
we're developing this. They had like a year to develop this.
Like, I was following it very closely, and that was the impression I was always under, that they were like, we're going to Netflix, this is what this is for. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to be fair, this is, I mean, I'm just hoping for the future. I'm trying to be optimistic that for a transition from what we had on Cartoon Network to Netflix, this is a decent transition season if hopefully we're getting into darker, deeper subject matter in the next seasons.
Yeah, which is, interesting because when they were talking about the second movie, they were saying they were looking a lot at Empire Strikes Back as, like, a good way to do a sequel. And there's a lot of dark stuff in Empire Strikes Back. And Jay Baruchel was saying in interviews, like, he was saying, it was a much more mature script, it's a lot darker, it's a lot more interesting, which it was true. The second movie was a lot darker. TV shows just haven't followed.
Yeah. I think a lot of the movie was changed, like, in post-production, because I remember watching, like, somebody got, like, a pre-screening, like, way in, like, the future, and they were describing, like, the opening of the film. It was, like, completely different from what happened. Like, I was expecting this to happen, and what happens in, like, the first 10 minutes is, like, when Hiccup falls in the water, he gets abducted by pirates.
Yeah.
And then, like, because it's, like, that was, like, the darkness, and he was, like, gone. Like, they took him away, and then, like, the screen closed after he got, like, taken out of the water by the pirates. So it doesn't happen in the movie. So I'm really...
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that,
I don't know if it just
will change that stuff all the time, but you have to wonder how much of it was, like, pushback from anyone, like, whether it be studio producers or even writers saying, well, we shouldn't go this far, or maybe we haven't gone far enough, who knows.
I feel like with this series, they could have really pushed the envelope.
They could have, because they're on Netflix now. Like, Netflix, like, you're zero restrictions there. Like, it's not even like you have to deal with, like, kids advertising like you would on, like, Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon. Like, there's no advertising on Netflix. Like, we all pay to watch Netflix.
Yeah.
So you could have done anything. Like, not to say that people should be, like, Game of Thronesing it, like, lobbing heads off or anything, but you could have, like, made a smoother transition or a transition period from... kiddish stuff to more adult things, because the point of this is that there's, one of the themes here is growing up and sort of coming of age. Story, which we see between the first and second movie pretty clearly, not really getting in the TV series.
I think there's a chance that with these seasons that they'll be connected, but very loosely connected, like we might jump a year or two.
Yeah. So do you think it will be after the second movie?
I'm not sure how I feel about the year jumping.
Well, I'm trying to think how big is the time jump between the first and the second movie? Is it like 5 years?
It's 5 or 6, because I can never definitively nail down if Hiccup was 14.
Yeah, it's 5 or 6.
Yeah. So so we've jumped 3 years. There's theoretically 2 years that we need to get to. I don't think they plan on doing. If we get a season that's after the third movie, it's the last season. That's it. Like that's gonna, like, we're going to definitely have one more season that is between not books. Oh my god, this is not Korra. Season between the first movie and the second movie. We're going to definitely get one more season. I'm thinking 2. I very, very, very much doubt, as much as I'd love to have a season after the third movie, I don't think we're going to get it. And I could see us jumping a year or two, like, especially with the way this season ended. Like, I'm not even seeing an arc. Dagger was the closest thing to an arc for the season, and if they had just switched the episodes around, it would have been more of a cohesive season. So I don't know how connected these seasons are going to be to each other. I mean, seeing as the episodes in this season aren't that connected and like they're in the same season. So, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like, I could see us next season being like 6 months kind of jump, or maybe even a year, or just a complete jump. And like, I don't know, like I don't see much except with Heather and Dagger coming over from this season. That's it. And then like and that's not even necessarily going to be related to events that happen. Does that make sense? Like they might just show up again.
Yeah, no, because that's what we're used to. So the interesting thing to take away from this is like people pointed out back before the second movie came out is the timeline, and that like Hiccup's story is essentially taking place in sort of the twilight of Viking Age. And that might be something they play with in the last movie, depending on if there's a time jump at all, and where they want to go with it, is that we could be seeing sort of the end of the Viking Age and
dragons.
Yeah, and what sort of like, because that sounds sad and dark.
Yeah, the dragons, the dragons are supposed to not be...
Yeah, that's how the books end. Like, well, that's how the books begin. That, like, when I was a boy, dragons, like, that's how it started.
Mm-hmm.
And we know obviously they don't stick, I've read a bit of the books, and, like, they don't stick to it very well. Like, it's more like characters, like, Astrid's not even a character in the books. And this is more of, like, Astrid's supposed to be, like, kamikaze in the books, but, like, she's not the same character. And so Krishna, however you say her name.
Yeah.
She has said that, like, the overall message she wants from the books are in the movies. So, like, the third movie, dragons are gone, or they're dying, or something. Like, they're going away. Something's happening.
Yeah.
Like, that's definitely what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like, that's where we're going, and I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know I thought that for a while. I thought, it's... When they announced that they were doing a trilogy after the first movie, I was like, okay, so we're going to end with something sort of dramatic like that, I feel like. So that's exciting. I like drama. I like drama in kids' drama. Movies.
Make me sad.
Yeah, just yeah.
I want to be bawling. If I'm not, if my soul is not ripped out, I'm going to be asked for my money back.
Yeah. So
they already did well with movie 2, so I'm prepared to be completely ended by the third movie.
Yeah, I'm one of the few people though who actually liked the first movie first.
I do like the first movie first.
I love the first.
And by first I meant more. That was weird.
I think I do love the first movie more than the second movie.
Yeah.
I will have to rewatch. I haven't done that in a while. But the second movie,
I think the second movie is the second movie of the trilogy. Yeah. Is the second movie of the trilogy ever the best one? No.
But it's pretty good. Well, Pirates of the Caribbean is not even a good example.
Well, no, because the good examples is that, like, second movies and trilogies can be good, can be the best, can be better than the first ones. Examples you got. Yeah, so, like, Empire Strikes Back, you've got widely considered, like, one of the greatest sequels, if not the...
It's also my favorite sequel. Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it's a lot of people's favorite Star Wars movie. Totally blew everyone out of the water when it came out. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Much better than the original, considered one of the best movies of all time. Definitely one of the best movies in the genre. Even something like Scream 2, like, in horror, considered better than the original. It, like, stepped up the game with that. So it is definitely possible for sequels to, despite what, like, people will tell you, like, it is possible for sequels to be better than the original.
Yeah.
And it is possible.
And How to Train Your Dragon 2 isn't terrible.
No, it's not. It's not a bad movie by any means. It's just, I like the first one a lot better than I liked the second one. It's still a really good film.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, like, that's another thing. It's like, what do you like in a movie? Like, How to Train Your Dragon 2, like, we were going to war. Like, we're beefing stuff up. We have a whole mom plot. Mm-hmm. It's Hiccup the movie. And, I think that'll be what's interesting is how we go into the third movie is, like you were talking about, the first movie is, we have our ensemble cast. Second movie is, this is Hiccup the movie. It's all about Hiccup. We have side adventures, but it's very much Hiccup.
Yeah.
Third movie, who are we, like, how is this going to work? Are we going to go back to ensemble? Is this kind of be like Hiccup the lone wolf kind of deal until, like, Astrid kicks him in the face and is like, no, we're not doing this again?
Yeah.
And I want to know how much this show, like, I think that what I'm, so we're all very meh, I think we've decided about the show, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I want to know, how much that we will see a bleeding effect from the TV show into the movie. Like, obviously, they're being produced at different times, and like they're, the third movie was going to be the third movie regardless of the show. But I want to see, like, are we going to see things that happen in the show that will, like, right now we're like, this is stupid, like, wow, Dagger, whatever. But is like Dagger the big bad in the third movie? Like, what's like, how much what's going to bleed into the third movie?
And it's interesting because you could look at sort of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a template for that, because a lot of there were characters who were introduced in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who showed up in Marvel movies. Marvel characters who, in the movies, who then showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like, prepped us for movies, did clean up, like, so they could easily do something like that. They don't have as many movies coming out every year, obviously, as the MCU. But it could easily be something like that. I'm not convinced right now that it is.
Like, I doubt it, but I think that'd be really cool. And I do think we need to be on the lookout for, like, at least a few things. Mm-hmm. Like, I definitely, like, why Dagger? I need to know where Dagger's going, what he's doing. I need to know, like, is he going to be concluded in this TV show, or is he in the third movie?
Yeah, because he has such an interesting dynamic with Hiccup, and that's sort of a tried and true dynamic that always wins audiences over. So it would be interesting to see that. So,
and we have to have a new villain.
We do. Yeah, no, we do. It's definitely going to be like Monster of the Week type deal, but with these movies. Yes. So, asked you to keep that dragon in the front of your head. Here's my question: what was your favorite introduced dragon this season?
This is kind of tough.
Yeah. I know mine. I forget what they're called, but that swarm of little dragons.
Night Terrors?
Oh, that was Night Terrors. I love their name. I love their name so much. That was actually an episode that I liked. Like, actually liked watching Thorson twin. I'm having a blank moment. Rough Nut. Oh my, not Rough Nut. Tough Nut. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot his name. I'm a terrible person. Anyways, liked watching him wander around. Like, that was thoroughly entertaining. He befriended a chicken. Yeah. Like, literally, that was the funniest thing for me, was watching him, like, interact with a chicken. Like, I would watch an entire movie, probably drunk, of him just hanging out with a chicken and going on adventures. Please don't make that. But I would.
So, what?
I think... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Favorite dragon.
It definitely, what's the Heather's dragon? The Razor?
Oh,
whatever their weird name. That dragon is cool. Like, that is like a Yu-Gi-Oh dragon. Like, he is blue eyes, white dragon. Like, that is what he is, and I love it.
Nice.
Wait, is it, no, it's a guy?
I don't know.
Well, he hasn't, they have a name.
Yeah.
But I cannot
remember for the life of me right now.
But I feel like, we didn't get nearly as many dragons this season as we've had in, like...
Or as you'd expect, too, since they discovered Dragon's Eye and, sort of finding all these... It's like, oh, now we can check out more dragons, and it's like, here's, like, 2.
Oh, I do?
I like the spitter dragon that was, like, the water dragon that was, like, all flat-headed and that had, like, the big, cute face that looked like a stingray with spikes. That was my fave.
The Scaldron? I don't know if that was a new dragon. Okay, yeah.
Just so you guys know, whenever I watch a TV show or anything, I never remember the names of anything for at least, like, 4 seasons. Like, in Teen Wolf, I called Jackson, who's the Canna, not a spoiler, Lizard Boy, till the end of season 2, because I couldn't remember his name.
Nice. It's not, like, my favorite dragon, but... I thought it was interesting that they just kind of, like, brush over alphas and the Titan wings.
Mm.
Like, they just mention it. Like, oh, you know what this is, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like, we definitely have not had, well, at least I'm just misremembering, because it's been so long, we don't, like, Titan wings, like, we don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Right?
Alphas,
we know alpha. Okay, because, we just suddenly had this, like, really scary, monstrous nightmare. Like, oh, it's a Titan wing. I mean, obviously we can understand what a Titan wing is, just from looking at it and it being called a Titan wing, but, like, there was no exposition or explanation like usual, where Fish Legs, like, opens the Book of Dragons.
Yeah. And talks about it for 10 minutes.
Awesome.
Which is also interesting that Hiccup said the Book of Dragons, Fish Legs had said the Book of Dragons was complete.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what episode that happened in.
Yeah.
That happened. Which
they're just like, no more dragons. That's it. You sure?
I don't really know.
You sure, bro?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure
so awesome. So winding down here. Great discussion. Definitely hopefully didn't ruffle some feathers, but that's the nature of the
happens.
beast. Alright, so where can we find more of you guys, social media-wise? Delaney, go.
Twitter, Delbury S, DELBARYS, and my Tumblr is Guru Korasami. I'm not spelling that, but you'll figure it out.
Sound it out. Britt, where's your social media?
I am Pollies on Tumblr, I think. I'm not Tumblr, on Twitter. I don't get on Twitter a whole lot, so don't. I mean, if you follow me, congratulations. I'm basically going to reblog the podcast tweets. And on Tumblr, I am opal.tumblr.com. OPAUL.
Awesome.
.tumblr.com.
Alright, find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. Support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, who are Cordell, Mitch, and Shayna, who go by the names of, in order, Cordell University, Fever Mitch, and Heya, which is
I haven't heard
hey,
these.
Shayna. So, yeah, if you want a fun nickname, head over to Patreon. That is one of our perks. I don't know if they call them perks on Patreon, but that is one of our perks for giving us monthly backing for this podcast, so we can get great content for you guys and keep up as many podcasts as a week as we can get trend that we've got going right now. So thank you so much, guys, for listening, and check out more stuff from us coming soon. I'm not sure. We're working on some Studio Ghibli stuff. Definitely Steven Baum next week for Steven Universe. And I believe the Minions podcast may be out by the time this is out. I'm not sure. It might already be out. Definitely a treat.
Yes.
Beautiful.
A little bit misguided, but it was fun. So check all those out, and we will see you guys later. Adios.
Bye.